what I'll do is we'll do a TikTok. We'll go through all the paper. We'll walk you through this process. What this came down to was that there doesn't seem to be a capacity for them to say yes. Now, what is absolutely true is we wanted more revenue than they had initially offered. But as you'll see, the spending cuts that we were prepared to engage in were at least as significant as the spending cuts that you've seen in a whole range of bipartisan proposals, and we had basically agreed within $10 billion, $20 billion. We were within that range. So that wasn't the reason this thing broke down. And we were consistent in saying that it was going to be important for us to have at least enough revenue that we could protect current beneficiaries of Social Security, for example, or current beneficiaries of Medicare, that we weren't slashing Medicaid so sharply that states suddenly were going to have to throw people off the health care rolls. And we were consistent in that. So I want to be clear. I'm not suggesting that we had an agreement that was signed, sealed, and delivered. The parties were still apart as recently as yesterday. But when you look at the overall package, there's no changing of the goalposts here. There has been a consistency on our part in saying we're willing to make the tough cuts and we're willing to take on the heat for those difficult cuts, but that there's got to be some balance in the process. What I've said publicly is the same thing that I've said privately, and I've done that consistently throughout this process. Now, with respect to this breakdown in trust, I think that we have operated above board consistently. There haven't been any surprises. I think the challenge really has to do with the seeming inability, particularly in the House of Representatives, to arrive at any kind of position that compromises any of their ideological preferences. None. And you've heard it. I mean, I'm not making this up. I think a number of members of that caucus have been very clear about that. But
they were willing to give them some revenues, apparently.
Absolutely. But what you saw, and again, you'll see this from the description of the deal. Essentially, what they had agreed to give on is to get back to a baseline. This starts getting technical, but there were about $800 billion in revenue that were going to be available. And what we said was, when you've got a ratio of $4 in cuts for every $1 of revenue, that's pretty hard to stomach. And we think it's important to make sure that whatever additional revenue is in there covers the amount of money that's being taken out of entitlement programs. That's only fair. If I'm saying to future recipients of Social Security or Medicare that you're going to have to make some adjustments, it's important that we're also willing to make some adjustments when it comes to corporate jet owners or oil and gas producers or people who are making millions or billions of dollars. Wendell. Where's Wendell? Wendell's not here. Leslie. Is Leslie here?
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you. You've said that your bottom line has been the big deal. That's not going to happen. Are you going to be willing to go back to just raising the debt ceiling bill?
Well, I think I've been consistently saying here in this press room and everywhere that it is very important for us to raise the debt ceiling. We don't have an option on that. So if that's the best that Congress can do, then I will sign a extension of the debt ceiling that takes us through 2013. I don't think that's enough. I think we should do more. That's the bare minimum. That's the floor of what the American people expect us to do. So I'd like to see us do more, and when I meet with the leadership tomorrow. I'm going to say, let's do more. But if they tell me that's the best they can do, then I will sign an extension that goes to 2013, and I will make the case to the American people that we've got to continue going out there and solving this problem. It's the right thing to do, and it's time to do it. We can't keep on putting it off.
And you suggested that Speaker Boehner didn't return phone calls this afternoon. Could you elaborate a little bit on
You know, I'm less concerned about me having to wait for my phone call return than I am the message that I received when I actually got the phone call. I'm going to make this last question. Go ahead.
Yeah, the markets are closed right now, obviously. Yeah. What assurances can you give people on Wall Street? Are you going to be reaching out to some people on Wall Street so that when Monday comes, we don't see a reaction to the news that's developing right now?
Well, I think it's very important that the leadership understands that Wall Street will be opening on Monday, and we better have some answers during the course of the next several days.
What can you say to people who are watching, who work on Wall Street, who might find this news a bit alarming, perhaps?
Well, I think what you should say, here's what I'd say. I remain confident that we will get an extension of the debt limit and we will not default. I am confident of that. I am less confident at this point that people are willing to step up to the plate and actually deal with the underlying problem of debt and deficits. That requires tough choices. That's what we were sent here to do. I mean, the debt ceiling, that's a formality. Historically, this has not even been an issue. It's an unpleasant vote, but it's been a routine vote that Congress does periodically. It was raised 18 times when Ronald Reagan was president. Ronald Reagan said default is not an option, that it would be hugely damaging to the prestige of the United States. And we shouldn't even consider it. So that's the easy part. We should have done that 6 months ago. The hard part is actually dealing with the underlying debt and deficits and doing it in a way that's fair. That's all the American people are looking for, some fairness. I can't tell you how many letters and emails I get, including from Republican voters, who say, look, we know that neither party is blameless when it comes to how this debt and deficit developed. There's been a lot of blame to spread around. But we sure hope you don't just balance the budget on the backs of seniors. We sure hope that we're not slashing our commitment to make sure kids can go to college. We sure hope that we're not suddenly throwing a bunch of poor kids off the Medicaid rolls so they can't get basic preventative services that keep them out of the emergency room. That's all they're looking for, is some fairness. Now, what you're going to hear, I suspect, is, well, you know, if the Senate is prepared to pass the cap, cut, and balance bill, the Republican plan, then somehow we can solve this problem. That's serious debt reduction. It turns out, actually, that the plan that Speaker Boehner and I were talking about was comparable in terms of deficit reduction. The difference was that we didn't put all the burden on the people who are least able to protect themselves, who don't have lobbyists in this town, who don't have lawyers working on the tax code for them. Working stiffs out there, ordinary folks who are struggling every day. And they know they're getting a raw deal. And they're mad at everybody about it. They're mad at Democrats and they're mad at Republicans because they know somehow, no matter how hard they work, they don't seem to be able to keep up. And what they're looking for is somebody who's willing to look out for them. That's all they're looking for. And, you know, for us not to be keeping those folks in mind every single day when we're up here, for us to be more worried about what some funder says or some talk radio show host says or what some columnist says or what pledge we signed back when we were trying to run, or worrying about having a primary fight. for us to be thinking